This should not be my life. What if I told you that I should not be here? What if I told you that I should be dependent on someone else for my survival? Somewhere out of my mind, hopelessly broken? I was only 10 when he died. It is then my life took an unexpected 180-degree turn. Suddenly, this never-lacking, carefree, river-loving, small village girl was catapulted to a life of scarcity so foreign to her that it took about 2 years to adjust. 2 years to realize that he was never coming back, and life would continue abnormally. I could not have imagined before what hardships we would have to endure because of that loss. It was as if his censure to me for throwing away bread one morning because I did not like the taste was manifesting. "You will need that bread one day," he had said in our local Creole language. For years after his death, we went to school with no breakfast, no lunch, and no idea if we would have dinner. And most days we did not have any. My unemployed and single mother did what she could to help, and I am so proud of her for never giving up. She cleaned houses, ironed, washed, whatever she found to do. It just never seemed to be enough to take care of 6 children, herself and my grandmother, who herself was single and unemployed. One night, while laying on a worn-out sponge on the floor of the 6 children's bedroom, I awoke to the deep sobs of an anguished soul in the living room. It was my mom, crying hopelessly. She revealed that she really had nothing with which to send us to school. As I knelt beside her with tears streaming down my own face, I promised to go to school in spite of, and right there on the living floor, I decided in my mind that I would be the first female on my mother's side to finish secondary school. That is the first time I had consciously set a goal, and I was determined to achieve it. My big brother Grell bought my books and school materials every summer. These books and materials became my daily bread. I consumed them with a fervor because in the back of my young mind, I needed to denounce the apparent curse that had been spoken over me on that morning that I threw the bread away. The words of my father played in my head every day that I did not have anything to eat, and I was, at the age of only 10, determined to change my reality. Every term, I would set mini goals, make action plans, and look my very best, even though my shirt, which was supposed to be yellow, was actually white from being overwashed. I don't think many teachers even noticed that I had not eaten on particular days, even though I know that they cared, because I was always in good spirits. I was simply focused on achieving my goal of graduating from high school, and I would go on a hungry belly if I had to. And thankfully, each term, I achieved my goal of doing well academically. This led me to set an even bigger goal at the end of high school. My goal then was to achieve a certain degree of excellence in my exit exams. I knew that if I achieved that, it would signal the turnaround for myself, for my family, and generations after me. I worked hard and I achieved my goal. To be honest, as an adult, there are days when I don't eat, even though the food is available for me. I do that just to remind myself that even without food, in the face of poverty and deprivation, I was able to set goals and chase them, and each time I did that, something changed in my life. That practice is literally just a reminder for me that my children and generations after them do not have to ever be in a situation where they will not have food to eat, because I set goals, chased them, and doing that changed my life and theirs. At the age of 16, I was offered a job to work in my elementary school in my community. Even though it would seem like a good opportunity because I would have a steady income and be able to provide for my family, I declined the job offer because I had a burning desire to accomplish more. At that time, an advanced level certificate meant for me a guarantee for a well enough paying job. No one else on my mother's side of our family had gone to that level of education. It was also something that rang in the back of my mind, because my father, before his death, would have me sit on a Sunday afternoon through what seemed to my 8 or 9-year-old mind at the time a boring ceremony that seemed to last forever. He would point to the screen and declare that I had to go there, to Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. And so, in spite of the fact that we were facing hardships, in spite of the fact that the hunger saga was not yet over, I was determined to go to a higher level of education, chasing one more goal and determined that I would achieve it. I thought to myself that I was already used to deprivation. In fact, it was as if the deprivation fueled my spirit. It would be better to endure it a little longer to most assuredly break free from the cycle of poverty. In 2000, I attended the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, A-level division. Another goal checked. Do you know what it is like to sit in a math class and not understand what is going on? I do. Do you know what it feels like to be in a class and get laughed at because you asked a question? I also do. Do you know what it feels like to cower in fear because your classmate chooses your simple question to be the brunt of his joke? I do too. Here I was at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, taking the mathematics course, and I was lost. So I did what I felt was the obvious thing to do. I asked a question. One of my classmates made a joke of my question, and the entire class erupted with laughter. I was so embarrassed that I promised never to ask a question out loud again. I continued to feel lost in my maths class until I failed my first exam. The number on the top right hand of the page, written in red, felt like a slap in my face. And that slap drew me back to reality, back to the reason I was here in this advanced level of school, back to the reality of why I was here, to break the cycle of poverty, deprivation, and dependency. I was here for a reason, and I needed to get back on track. I already knew what the winning formula was because I had tried it in secondary school and it worked. So I decided to put it in action again. I applied the same method that I had used at secondary school. I created a goal to attain more than 50% in my final exam. I moved my seat to the front of the class so that my focus would be on the content in front of me and not the laughter in the back. I raised my hand firmly and asked every question that popped into my head. I enlisted the help of another faculty member and scheduled times for us to meet and review content that I had yet to understand. In year 2, when I turned back to take a look at the class, almost half of my classmates were gone. There was this policy that if you did not pass the final exam for the course at the end of the first year, you would not be able to make it to the second. I made it. In the summer of 2002, Soufrière Comprehensive Secondary School needed a math teacher. I got the opportunity to gain employment as a teacher given my performance at both secondary school and A-level college. Another goal chased and checked. Having that stable employment afforded me the privilege to provide for my little sisters, as I was also able to help them to realize that if they set a goal and go after it, it could change their reality. And I was a living example of that in their lives. However, my desire and passion for setting goals opened me to the unsavory experience of goal shaming. Others who did not understand the formula or why it even existed began to make fun of me. Instead of their looking at my example as a means of inspiration, they would mock me with things like, "What you doing with that? Why are you doing that like that? You don't need that. That will never work." I experienced goal shaming when I, together with my husband, built our first family home. The thing is, I had lived and was living at the time we planned to build our home in a less than satisfactory experience. At the end of grade 8, my mom got a new boyfriend and decided that she wanted to make a change. We moved to Cicero. We all moved. I was transferred to Entrepot Secondary for a term as a result. Things did not turn out as she had planned. We were back in Canaries. But the house that my father had built before his death for my mom was still occupied as she had rented it out to family friends. Another friend offered to let her stay in her unfinished house. At night, we placed a plywood against the doors, some wood against the most vulnerable windows, bathed in the standpipe, thankfully just outside the house, and slept on the floor in the dark. We had no furniture whatsoever. My mom made sure that we cleaned and tidied up our scant belongings and washed and weeded, and she sang. She always sang whenever she was cleaning. There was one particular song that she really loved, "Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior." Always sang it to a remix though. She would drag that line for eons. Now I understand that she was actually praying, pleading for a change. One night, we were awakened by some stranger shuffling through our 5 bodies and groping in the darkness as if looking for something. My mother held him by his shirt collar and asked him what he was doing there. He responded that he had come looking for me, even though I know I never invited him. Expletives erupted, and my mom demanded that he never return to our home and promised to involve the police if he did. This, along with other incidents in my childhood journey, placed a dream in my heart. When I was 15 years old, I set a goal to build a house for my mom and a house for myself. When I shared this goal with my mom, she reminded me that she already had a house and simply needed to renovate it. So my goal shifted to helping her achieved that, and we achieved both. Don't let anyone shame you with the goals that you have. If you have lived and experienced the worst, why not chase your best? Whatever that means for you. Because at the end of the day, you are in competition with no one but yourself. You want to change the reality that you are experiencing so that once you have lived the transformation, you can now give others the evidence of its possibility. Lived experience is irrefutable evidence. I refuse to allow anyone to goal shame me. Goal shamer, where were you when I slept on the floor with carbon as my bedding? Where were you when breakfast, lunch, and dinner were delicacies rather than the normal? Where were you when I almost got raped because we had no doors? Where were you when, as a teenage girl, I had to bathe in a standpipe and inadvertently attract predators? Where were you when my mind just would not let me sleep because of all these possibilities for a different reality was screaming loudly in my head, begging to be released into the world? Where were you? I would have loved then for you to have spurred me on with your "what you doing with that" speech. Please, don't try to stop me now. Keep your goal shaming to yourself. Move out of my way. Let me chase that goal. I understand the potential of that goal to functionally serve and protect me and my family. I understand the potential of that goal to change my life. It's time you also understood that goal chasing is not merely about the changing of external realities, but shifting emotional barricades that threaten to leave you unfulfilled and living below the actual possibilities that can be yours. There is an exhilaration that comes from achieving a goal, that feeling of having conquered, daring to stretch yourself to the limit with the assurance that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. It is not necessarily the applause that spurs you on, or the lack of it that deters you. It is simply the fact that you know that the achievement of such a goal ushers in a radical reality for you, for yours, and for your community. I think everyone should experience this.
Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. And when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe.
Wherever you are, I come in the name of Jesus, and by his name you have been made free.